Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. And joining me for his debut on Continental Club, what an absolute treat, it's Henry Hill, along with Patrick Van Straten. Welcome Henry. And we are answering Johnny D96's question, who has asked, who have been the standout players of the season so far? But before we get into that, just a quick reminder to subscribe to Eurofootball Daily and hit that notification bell to never miss a video. And yes, we're aware that the season is far from over, so there's still 6 games to play in the Bundesliga, 9 in the Premier League, 11 in La Liga and 12 in Serie A, and Liga has been cancelled. But nonetheless, we thought it'd be fun to do a team of the season so far. So this isn't the best players in the world, this is a team of the season based on the 1920 campaign. And it makes sense to start at the back. And Henry, I believe you want to pull out the man from Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, that's right. I think we have to start with Jan Oblak. I mean, he's widely considered one of the, if not the best goalkeeper in the world, and has been for a number of seasons now. That's despite Alisson and Edison, some of these other up-and-coming guys that we've seen pop up onto the scene. But yeah, Oblak's just been brilliant. I mean, and it's really, the thing that's made him so good, I think, is that it's really not been a great season for Atletico going forward anyway. And he's become even more important than he was before. I mean, he's played 37 games in all competitions. He's only conceded 29 goals. It's 0.8 goals per game. And in Europe's top 5 leagues, only Real Madrid have conceded fewer times than Atletico, just to show how good they've been. I mean, they've always been a really defensive side, but this season he's upped his game again. He's got a 73% save percentage, which is important because Atletico are actually facing 10.7 shots per game, which is the 8th in La Liga, which is actually quite high when you consider. Everton's in the Premier League is actually 10.9, so it shows just how sort of much work and action he's had to put in. And I think if you really look at one defining performance, it has to be that Champions League display against Liverpool, where he was absolutely monumental. He kept out shot after shot after shot, and then they were able to go on and sneak the win in the end. And I mean, if you compare let's look at Alisson, for example, who people once again quite rightly say he's had an amazing season. He's been injured. He's only played 24 games. Adrian's had to fill in a lot of the times. And you know, he's historically, he's never actually had to face that many shots throughout in every game that he plays. He's only conceded 16 times. But yeah, I just think if you look at who's really been the standout player for their team this season, it has to be Oblak at Atletico Madrid. He's really been the one that's elevated his game. And I think when they go to the Player of the Year and they look at within their squad to see who's been the standout performer, if we consider that João Felix hasn't quite lived up to expectations, their forward line has been frankly really disappointing. You know, Morata's their top scorer. I don't think he's even made double figures in the league. Oblak's really been the man. And, you know, if there's anyone that they desperately need to hold on to, it's definitely him.
Yeah, fair enough. You know, he has had an exceptional year. And as you say, that Champions League performance at Anfield, facing 11 shots on target, will live long in the memory. Before I give my opinion, Pat, I was intrigued to hear, do you agree with Henry on Oblak, or do you have got another name to throw into the mix?
I don't agree on Oblak, actually. I understand why you guys are praising him, because he's an amazing goalkeeper. But this has been his worst season in a long time. He has not been good this season by his standards. Pretty much every year, he massively overperforms expected goals. He comes up big, makes huge saves. Like, we obviously see that in the big games. This year, he's actually behind expected goals. He's conceded about 2.5 goals more than you'd expect. And that's largely come on set pieces. Atleti have been surprisingly weak on set pieces this year, given, you know, the reputation they built in the first half of the last decade under Simeone, where obviously it was really one of the strengths of the side. I'd actually be inclined to look. I understand. I agree about Alisson. Like, I think maybe he hasn't played enough. Though I think if he had played enough, he'd probably be a bit of a shoe-in here. But I think you should probably give some attention as well to Thomas Strakosha at Lazio. He's conceded about 7 goals fewer than expected goals predicts. When you look at Lazio's metrics, they're actually a long way behind Inter, Juventus and Atalanta. Like, they are a distant fourth behind those teams. And yet they are right there at the pinnacle of the table. And it's because of 2 guys. It's because of Immobile overperforming in attack. And it's because of Strakosha overperforming in goal. And I also think he's really good with his feet. But his ability to make saves from the danger zone, you know, shots close in, is absolutely remarkable. And I think I'm not sure he's even 25 yet. Maybe he is now. But if so, it's relatively recent. So I think Strakosha should really be in with a shout here. I've got to say, Any other year, I'd be fine with Oblak as goalkeeper, in the same way that every other year I'd be fine with Ter Stegen as goalkeeper, but neither one of them has had a particularly good season, actually. I think out of all the keepers who've played like 1,000 minutes in La Liga, he's in the bottom 6 or 7 when it comes to expected goals saved above or below average. So I think I'm intrigued to see who you offer, Dukes, but I've got to say I'll probably side with you because I'm not a fan of Oblak's season.
Fair. Well, it's proving to be a contentious start in goal. I actually think Thibaut Courtois deserves an awful lot of credit. He obviously didn't start the season particularly well, didn't keep a clean sheet in his first 6 games. They got battered by PSG 3-0. And then there was that really sort of season-defining moment for him where Real Madrid drew 2-2 with Club Brugge. And Courtois was hooked off at half-time, made an error for one of the goals. And then there was talk about him having a stress-related illness. I'm not quite sure what that actually materialised as being, but it felt like his season and really his career at Real Madrid after a disappointing debut campaign last year was sort of really up in the air. But he's come back in superb form. So since then they've played 24 games and they've conceded 14 goals and kept 14 clean sheets in all of them. He's obviously behind the best defence according to goals against in Europe's top 5 leagues. They've conceded 6 fewer than they should have. And I think he deserves an awful lot of credit. Particularly, I've got to put my hands up and eat a bit of humble pie because I was sort of ruling him out as not a particularly exciting signing when he signed for Real. But I think he deserves an awful lot of credit. So guys, it's come to the decision. I think there's 3 good cases there. I wasn't quite as aware as Pat on Oblak's sort of struggling form compared to his usual. So who are we going for?
Can I just say, I mean, Pat, do you not think, if you consider that Atletico basically had to rebuild their entire defence, the fact that they've still, only Real Madrid have conceded more of them in the top 5 of Europe, the fact that they're taking as many shots as Everton do per game, the fact that they've managed, he's had to perform above and beyond what you'd possibly imagine him to do. So yeah, obviously it's not been as good a season as previous, but if he wasn't performing to the level that he is, it would have been much worse for them because they can't score, on top of the fact that, although they're able to defend really well, they really struggle to score. So he's almost single-handedly helped keep them in the higher level of the table. I don't know how you can't sort of honour that as a really good, amazing season once again from one of the best goalies in the world.
Because I'd say that they've rebuilt the defence, but the defence has actually been really good. It's conceded more shots than normal, but the quality of shots it concedes is still very, very low. And I can only really judge Oblak based on how he performs when the shots actually reach him, like the shots on target that make it through to him. And based on those shots, he's conceded more goals than expected goals would predict. And that's something he's never done in the past. He's always overperformed, as well as Atleti's defence being good. So yeah, I think he hasn't underperformed by that much, but he's actually underperformed what you'd expect from an average keeper this year based on expected goals. He's been very good in the Champions League. He's been much better in the Champions League. But in league play, he hasn't been very good at all, I don't think. So yeah, I can really only judge him on the shots he's faced, and he's let too many of them in. I mean, that's as simple as it is for me. And the thing is, I'd rather pick him over Courtois. I love Oblak, and I can't really stand Courtois. I agree with Doogie. I kind of said, I hate this signing, man, when Real Madrid went and bought him. And to be fair, his first season wasn't great. So we will see if this is the new normal. But he has been sensational this season. He really has. Whereas Real Madrid do have a worse defence than Atleti, but their defence currently looks better, and that is down to Oblak. So even if you want to say that Oblak has been good, I think Courtois has overperformed what you'd expect of him.
Okay, I'm the adjudicator, and we've got 10 other positions to fill, so I'm putting Courtois in there. But with Oblak in second place, and credit to Strakosha. Let's move on to left back. Pat, who are your suggestions? Because I don't think this will be as controversial, perhaps.
I think it's probably got to be Andy Robertson. I don't really think there's much debate to be had. I mean, in the last week, I think because now a load of people who don't normally watch the Bundesliga are watching the Bundesliga, suddenly people are like, hey, this Raf Guerrero is pretty good. Hey, Alphonso Davies is pretty good. And they are both amazing. But Raf Guerrero's played most of the season as a left wing back. Alphonso Davies has been fantastic, but I do think it's an easier job for him defending for Bayern Munich in that side with the players he's got around him and them having almost all of the ball. I think Robertson adds so much in attack. He's almost never caught out in defence. The major criticism you could make of him is that he seems to get away with red card challenges and headbutting people and pushing people into hoardings quite a lot. But that's not necessarily a feature that you don't want to have in your left back. Just think he adds an unusual amount for a guy in his position. Whereas I think if you gave Alphonso Davies to a club in the mid-table of the Bundesliga, I think he'd be great, but I don't think he'd be able to play quite the way he does. Robertson, I think, is a much more conventional left back, obviously, because he's a left back, not a converted winger. And I think he'd probably be pretty good for anyone at this point. Plus, they're going to win the league by 1,000,000 points. I think it's probably got to be Robertson.
Fair enough. Henry, are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I really... Whereas with the goalkeeper, I was quite happy to argue Pato. I think I'll back down on this one. Alphonso Davies has been good. That is right. But I completely agree. I mean, it's interesting looking at his statistics. He scored 2 goals, same as Robertson, the same number of assists. And actually, he takes 3.9 tackles and interceptions, which is one more than Robertson. But I think Robertson's overall involvement in the game is more important, and his role within Liverpool is more vital in the things he does. Whereas Alphonso Davies, I think, he can have... I think Thomas Muller last weekend said he's often caught out of position and he just relies on his pace. So, like you said, it looks very flashy because he's able to speed back into the right positions. But I think in reality, Andy Robertson is the superior player and shown that again this season.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I'm in agreement too. I mean, Davies, in 30 games as a left back, has proved himself potentially as one of the best in the years to come. But difficult to look past Robertson. I would say he's probably not been quite as consistent as he was in 18-19, along with Van Dijk perhaps. I remember a couple of errors. I think it was against Napoli in the Champions League. Maybe not quite as error-proof as normal, but still the standout left-back. I'm happy to go with Robertson too. Right, so we've got Courtois and Robertson. Let's move into centre-back. Kind of difficult, this one, I thought, actually. But I'm intrigued to hear who you guys are going to bring. Henry, who's your centre-back?
I'm going to go with Upamecano for RB Leipzig. I think... On the podcast last week with Pato, we discussed some of our favourite players in the Bundesliga right now. He's right up there. I think he's absolutely quality. He's only 21 years old, which is nuts. He missed 23 games in injury in 18-19, but this year he's just been brilliant again. He's their go-to man at centre-back. And, if you consider just how attacking this Leipzig side really is, I think the other week they basically played with 6 attackers almost going forward. It was a nuts team, but yeah, he's the rock at the heart of their defence. I mean, in 29 league and UCL appearances, he makes 3.8 tackles and interceptions with a 71% completion rate. I mean, he wins 66% of his aerial duels, and he makes 72 passes a game, which is really what you're looking for in the modern day centre backs. That's an 89% passing accuracy of those two. So I think if you're looking for a future star out and out, and also one who's playing to a level now which is brilliant. He could walk into any team now, I think, and might not even need time to adjust or anything. He's at that level now where he's ready to perform. I mean, only Bayern have conceded fewer than Leipzig's 29 goals in 28 Bundesliga games, which is remarkably impressive. Once again, if you consider how much mature Bayern are as a team, and also the fact that Leipzig do play in such an attacking style. So I think, for me, Upamecano, he's been a real standout performer this year, and he's awesome. Yeah, no,
he's been absolutely awesome. I totally agree. Wax lyrical about him on a weekly basis, just his sort of range of passing, that ability with his left foot to break the press so easily. He's just awesome to watch and really quick, powerful, just everything you really want. And no surprise that so many clubs are chasing him this summer. Pat, who are you pairing with Upamecano, and are you agreeing with that suggestion?
I'm fine with Upamecano going in. I think he's been fantastic. I completely agree with everything Henry said about him. But if he's a definite, then it becomes difficult. Because I think, as much as Virgil van Dijk, I think has taken quite a significant step back on last season, he's still been amazing. He's still probably been the best centre-back in the world. That's how good he is. He's incredibly dominant. He really just anchors that defence together. It doesn't really matter what rotation is going on around him because his recovery pace is so good. When his positioning very, very rarely lets him down. He's just got the physical ability to recover. He never gets out-muscled. However, I kind of would like to give a shout to David Alaba, who's been playing out of position at centre-back this season. He and Alphonso Davies on the left-hand side of a defence is almost impossible to get past. They're both incredibly quick. They both Davis has taken to the position of left back really well, but Alaba understands where Davis kind of needs to be and also understands what it is to play that centre-back role in this kind of quite aggressive system. And so he's able to pull out wide and cover that wide area when Davis gets caught up pitch. And he's also been Bayern's most important progressive passer. I think he's leading the league this season in passes into the final third. Like, it's over 10 a game. And he's always been good at that. But last season, it was Boateng who led the league. And this year, they've kind of taken some of that burden away from him, and it's been Alaba instead. He really is the guy who dictates the tempo for Bayern. He moves them up the field. He is able to evade pressure at the back. And he was even able to go and overlap Alphonso Davies at certain points. Like, he was doing it in the Clasica the other day. And that kind of range of things, like having a guy play centre-back, play on the left side of central defence, who's also played left-back and also played central midfield, is such an advantage because he immediately understands what the players in those positions around him are going to be trying to do and where to find them. And I just think he's been incredible this season. Arsene Wenger was actually talking the other day about how he thought David Alaba was the unsung hero of Bayern's season. So I'd like to give him a shout, but I also completely understand if you guys would rather put in Upamecano and VVD over him.
Yeah, no, I think there's one more name I'd like to give a shout out to as well. Francesco Acerbi from Lazio as well, the cornerstone of the best defence in Serie A, as we've mentioned. Only his second year at Lazio after transferring from Sassuolo, but he's been absolutely awesome. And probably would be due a move if he wasn't 32. So he's appeared in 30 League and Europa League games. 2 goals, 2 assists, which isn't, crucial for a centre-back, but it's a nice chip in as well. 89% tackle completion rate. I think Van Dijk's is around 80%. So that just shows, like, he has just played insanely well. His reading of the game and his passing is exceptional as well. 56 passes a game, over 90% pass accuracy, 5.8 long balls a game, which is around what sort of Toby Alderweireld was producing at his peak, and he's been one of the best long-range passers we've seen in the Premier League in years. Only bought for £9.5 million a couple of years ago, so what an absolute steal he's been. But I'm feeling a bit controversial. I'm actually happy to go with David Alaba and Upamecano. Henry, what do you think about that? Or are you going Van Dijk?
Yeah, I mean, solid German pairing. I mean, it is difficult with Van Dijk. I do think of course, the level he hit last year was so high. To assume he could sort of replicate that again is tricky. But yeah, I think David Alaba, he's a class player, and anyone that's transitioned that well from playing almost out of position in a way, I think it's brilliant. So yeah, if I would be happy to have Alaba in that side.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot of spicy comments. This doesn't mean that we don't think Van Dijk is the best centre-back. It's just on the basis of this season. David Alaba, maybe it's a bit controversial, but hey-ho. Right back, it's easy. I'm not even letting you discuss. It's Trent on the basis of this season. Kimmich is in discussion for midfield, so you don't really have an argument with that. 2 goals, 13 assists. Just a phenomenal... He's such a different style of player from Dani Alves, and I think any comparisons to Dani Alves are absolutely ridiculous at this stage. But I've never seen a right back or either full back with his passing range, his passing ability, his crossing ability on the ball. There's no one really like him before. Dani Alves was very different, much more athletic, probably a better one-on-one defender. But Trent, if he carries on at this rate, he might go down as an all-time great. So we're putting Trent at right back. Midfield. Now, I think there's actually been loads of good midfield performances this year, and I'm intrigued to see where we start with. Pat, who would you like to include first?
I kind of feel like this is a bit of a rigged position, to be honest with you. Because I think the fact that now the world is willing to pretend that Kevin De Bruyne is a central midfielder means that he will be in the team of the year forever for everyone. Despite the fact that he doesn't play as a central midfielder at all. Like, he did one season, but he hasn't done it the last couple of years, and yet we all still seem to be like, yeah, obviously Kevin De Bruyne in the centre of midfield. If you do count him as a central midfielder, I think he's probably got to go in. Like, his creative numbers are as good as anybody in the world. In fact, they're better than everybody else's. The only player Thomas Muller is better. I would say that if I had a choice between De Bruyne and Thomas Muller here, I would go for Thomas Muller this season. De Bruyne's defensive contribution has really fallen off, but he's still doing tons of ball progression. He's creating so many chances, like 4 chances a game. He's at something like 0.5 expected assists a match or something obscene like that, which is just almost unheard of. And he's the guy at Man City who, when they need something, he's going to produce something out of nowhere. But I don't know. I'm talking about De Bruyne, but I kind of don't want to put him in. I feel like if we're going to put in central midfielders, let's put in central midfielders. And De Bruyne should be in contention for a number 10 position, where he should lose out to Thomas Muller. I'd much rather see like Marcelo Brozovic make it in, who I think has been an incredible all-round midfielder this season. Still a great defender, loads of chance creation, almost impossible to press off the ball. He, to me, is the indispensable guy in Inter Milan's midfield. Absolutely indispensable. And I think it's staggering that he's been there for so long.
Yeah, he's absolutely awesome. He was definitely going in. In my mind, I was playing a 4-3-3, and he was the holding player with De Bruyne one side. Henry, who would be your third midfielder in that selection? Or who do you want to give particular credits to in any formation?
Yeah, first of all, I think Milinkovic-Savic has really come out, like he's really proved his worth this year. I think this has been, if we didn't already know about him, we definitely do now. He's 4 goals, 4 assists, 3.2 tackles and interceptions. But I love like a destructive central midfielder. I think it's very easy to look at sort of key passes and attacking figures. And I think Wilfred Ndidi's been like brilliant this year. I don't know if Partey will probably disagree with me. I don't know if it makes European Team of the Year, as it were. But I mean, 4 tackles and 2.7 interceptions per game is just unreal. And I think people don't value. I mean, it was only when Conte almost elevated himself to that level that people began to think, wow, these guys are sort of necessary for a world-class team. And I think Ndidi's been doing that as well. And also, shout out for Mikel Merino at Real Sociedad as well. He's been brilliant as well. He's the reason they're almost able to like set up every attack because he breaks it down in the midfield. He wins a staggering amount of aerial duels and he's hardly can be beaten in the air. And I think players like him, they do all the dirty work, which players like De Bruyne then often profits on. And I think, if you look at Rodri was meant to be the big kind of takeover of Fernandinho this year, and I don't think he's really shown I don't think he's proved his price tag of 60 million so far. But players like Ndidi and Mikel Merino, I think they've been fantastic. So I personally would like to see like a destructive central midfield player in there, just sort of balance it out. I hate it when you see these teams of the week, which are all sort of attacking midfielders going forward.
The Garth Crooks formula.
Yes, yeah, I was actually exactly what I was thinking of. Yeah, his dodgy formations, which he seems to fit people in on. But yeah, I'd like to see, I'd say Ndidi over Merino, just on the basis of how well Leicester have been this year and how much he's helped that process. So yeah, that's my outside shout.
Fair, I like it. I think, I think they're both worthy contenders as well. We can contest who exactly is going to make up this midfield, but I think we need to mention Kimmich as well. 25, he's played actually 70% of his midfield, his minutes this year in midfield. And he's just been absolutely phenomenal. He's such a different style of player to Thiago, who's a much better dribbler than him. So good in tight spaces, but Kimmich is just metronomic with his passing. He's very comfortable receiving it in tight spaces and instantly giving it on. His chips through balls are fantastic, and as we saw the other night, he's sort of unrivaled technically in that Bayern midfield, except for probably from Thiago with that chip over Berkey, which will probably seal their 8th Bundesliga title. Deserves an enormous amount of credit, and also 3 goals and 5 assists in the Bundesliga. Not quite as many as assists last year when he was at right back, but still a phenomenal return. So Kimmich deserves a shout. Okay, who are we making in this midfield then?
What about Thomas Partey? Like I totally agree. We should have like a defensive presence in there.
Can we not have Brozovic as that?
Maybe.
I think even Mikel Merino is a great shout.
Yeah, but I think Partey has a much better rounded. Like Ndidi's an amazing defender, but Partey has a much more rounded game. Like he offers much more. He's much more similar to Brozovic in that sense. Like I mean, but. Like, Ndidi is an incredible defender, but nothing else. Like,
I'd say his passing has got a lot better.
Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, well, he's now an average passer. Like, so that deserves credit. No, it doesn't. Like, he's not a minus on the ball, but he's not a plus. He's an extremely good defender. And I say I love Wilfred Ndidi, but to me, Partey, Brozovic, Thiago, even Kimmich, like these guys are much more rounded players. Like Verratti, even Idrissa Gueye this season has been more rounded, arguably. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I think can we all agree on Brozovic? I think that's a fair start.
Yeah, I'm happy with him. I also think we've got to include De Bruyne, but
sure.
Henry's not pleased.
No. Well, first of all, I think Marino's been better than Thomas Partey this year.
Really.
Yeah, he has. He's scored 3 and he's assisted 1, which is more than Partey. And defensively, you look at his numbers, and he's made more tackles and interceptions and stuff like that. I think really, when you break down individual performances over a whole year, I think he's been a better player than Thomas Partey. And honestly,
Really?
I genuinely do.
I think Partey's probably been Atleti's best player this season. Like, I mean, his ability to snuff out danger, but also his progressive passing. Like, his ability to pass into the final third is really quite impressive. And yeah, I mean, you can give people credit for goals and stuff, but like, it's not really his job. It's like a nice bonus if they score a couple of goals, but I don't think that's really what determines whether they've been good in their position, if that makes sense. If they consistently create chances, sure, but I don't know. Fair enough. Like, I'm fine with leaving Partey out, but like, I don't think Mikel Merino's going in.
Okay, yeah, no, I accept that. I'm in agreement. I agree with you over Brozovic. I think he's been unreal. I think we've both written about Inter Milan recently, and he's definitely been. I mean, even in the second half of the season, when he technically dropped off a little bit because of their thin squad and Conte's demands, I think he still even then maintained ridiculous level. And so yeah, I agree with him. Dookie, I feel it's like being the new member to the Continental Club team. I don't have the swaying power over this one, so I'm going to let you have the...
No, I like it. I like this fighting of your corner. I think it's great. Brozovic, De Bruyne, and oh god, I was pretty pleased with Kimmich or Thiago, but
there's no bad choice really.
There's really no bad choice
unless you put in Toni Kroos, which is a bad choice.
Just quickly, can we confirm that Kimmich's goal against Dortmund wasn't a great goal? It was a terrible save from the terrible keeper, which is Roma Berkey. Can we just confirm that? Or...
I agree.
I tweeted that it was really poor from Berkey, but it did look nice.
No, it didn't. It didn't look nice because it got ruined by him just like flapping it into his own goal. It's just like he managed to ruin the aesthetics of the goal, but not even save it. He's rubbish.
And actually, at the moment that it's going past him, it's not even that high. It's not even a great, like, perfectly executed.
I know. He can't even time his jump properly. He's a goalkeeper.
Honestly, the Sun today reported that Chelsea want him for £15 million. They can have him. I mean, I think that's double. That's way too much. They should be paying for him.
What is wrong with them and choosing awful keepers?
Swap him for Kepa, and then it's worth it.
Oh dear. But yeah, whether or not Kimmich, I don't know. I mean, Diggy, Kimmich has been amazing this year, and I think that game against Tottenham in the Champions League, he was unreal, wasn't he? He played so well, and that first goal that he scored, where he just sort of took a touch out and drilled it into the bottom corner, I thought that was awesome. So if you do put Kimmich in, I'm not going to have too many complaints either about that.
Okay, I mean, we've got to move on. That was a great midfield discussion. I'm going Brozovic, KDB, and Kimmich. I think that's awesome. Anyway, we'll go on to forwards because this is probably going to be even more controversial. Let's start with our central striker, so our number 9. Pat, who would you like to include?
Lewandowski.
Yeah.
Like I think Immobile deserves a shout. I think Timo Werner does as well, but I think Lewandowski has been the best this season. He's now scored as many goals as Immobile. In more minutes and with fewer assists, but I think when you factor in the Champions League performance, which you have to, then he really does deserve the spot because Immobile scored 2 in like 3 appearances in the Europa League or something like that. Lewandowski's played 500 minutes in the Champions League this season and he scored 11 and assisted 2. That is absolutely ridiculous. If that was like a young striker's return for the whole season, then we would be praising them to the sky. That's like Raul Jimenez's output for the whole campaign, and people are linking him with Juventus. So, I mean, Lewandowski has obviously always been one of the best strikers in the world, but this year his just ability to get shots from key positions, it's like nearly 5 shots a game. Like, he's dribbling twice a game, which is something he never did. His expected goals are something... I think his expected goals suggest that every 4 games he should be involved in 5 goals, which is nuts. I mean, it's above Werner, it's above Immobile, it's above anybody in the Premier League. So, yeah, I think it's hard to look past him. While I understand wanting to give the other guys credit, but I think as much as you can give Immobile credit and as much as you can give Werner credit, to say either of them has been better than Lewandowski, I think would be inaccurate, probably.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement there. 41 goals, 36 games, just absolutely unreal.
Jesus, are those the numbers?
Yeah.
That's outrageous.
It's just mental. Right, Henry, let's start on the wings. Who would you like to put forward?
Sorry, I was about to slam Immobile for a little bit for scoring 10 penalties this year, which really winds me up. So, honestly, that's such a gimmick of a way to build your goal scoring record. But I don't know. Do we play Messi as a winger? I mean, I hate it. Winds me up to include him again. But I just think in what has not been a great year for Barcelona. I mean, I think we've got a scout report coming out, which you'll read all of. You can see all about it. But Barcelona haven't actually been nearly the threat that they have been in the past. And Messi's just literally had to roll his sleeves up and not only be a goal scorer, but he's almost had to create his own chance as well. I'm fairly sure he could probably do a key pass to himself and score. He's that good this year. I mean, and that's only with 21 goals, which is actually down on what he normally achieves. So that's still the top scorer in La Liga. He's got 15 assists as well, I think, and that includes the Champions League. He's once again been unreal. I think I don't want to get too slammed in the comments, so I think we have to include him because he's once again just been amazing. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear who else you guys consider for the wing position. I think I'd like to give a shout out to Riyad Mahrez as well. I think Riyad Mahrez has really stepped up. He's finally shown that price tag that he's worth, and I think in what is, before when they said let's sell Leroy Sané, I used to think that's ridiculous. Why would you sell Leroy Sané? Mahrez is way worse than him. But I think this year he's shown glimpses that if Sané does leave this summer, that he's ready to step up. And, his contribution to the City side this year, I think, has been invaluable. But yeah, I mean, who else do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I agree with Mahrez. He's really gone. I think he just still doesn't get the credit he deserves, really. People really like to take him down a peg. I'm not quite sure why. But yeah, Messi on one wing, I think, has to go in. Then it's really sort of a toss-up. I think Mbappe's obviously got to get a lot of credit. I mean, 23 goals and 9 assists in 27 League and Champions League games. 9 goal contributions in 7 Champions League games as well. An insane amount of shots, dribbles, just everything you'd want in a forward. But, with PSG's league season being cancelled and then being sort of stopped at the Champions League quarter-final stage for now at least, and it will be really difficult for them to win the Champions League, especially without any games in the build-up. I think it's going to be really difficult for him to get in the team of the year. I think Ilicic also deserves a shout as well. Being absolutely phenomenal for Atalanta. I think it's 20 goals and 5 assists, which for a 32-year-old is just absolutely mental. Chris Hamels made a good campaign all year about him being the best player in Serie A. I mean, it's really difficult to argue with, at least on the basis of this season alone. I mean, he's taking 4.5 shots and creating 3.1 chances per 90. Everyone says, Gasparini's system. I mean, Ilicic is the sort of focal point of it, and he's taking advantage of a system that works to create a hell of a lot of opportunities, and he's been absolutely lethal with it. So he deserves a shout as well. Pat, I mean, would you like to include Salah or Sancho or anyone else?
I mean, to me, it's really between Mbappe, Sancho, and Ilicic here. I think it has to be. Mbappe has a smaller quantity of performance, and probably at a lower level, but has been sufficiently good that he probably still merits discussion. I think probably the 3 best players in the world this year have been Messi, Lewandowski, and Mbappe. But on the other hand, Sancho's numbers at his age as well are just absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I know he's overperformed expected goals and stuff, but they couldn't be better. They genuinely couldn't be better. Well, unless they were Mbappe's, maybe. I don't think you could I'm not going to put Ilicic in, I don't think. Because I'm looking at Sancho and Mbappe. They've both contributed over a goal a game, and Ilicic, as amazing as he has been, has not done that. But I don't know. I mean, I'd be happy with either. Mbappe's a better player, has been better when he's on the field, but he has arguably faced a lower standard of opposition with more talent around him, and he's played less. So I'd like to hear from you guys on how you think that determines it.
Well, Henry, as the Continental Club newbie, I want you to have the deciding vote on the left wing spot.
Oh, it's a real honour. I think Sancho for me personally. That's not no British kind of loyalties there or anything. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I don't think Salah's been at the level he has been the last 2 seasons. And yeah, Mbappe, once again, I think really for him to be perceived as an all-time great, eventually he's going to have to leave PSG. I think everyone's coming to that conclusion eventually. But yeah, Sancho's just been unreal. If it wasn't for Thomas Muller just having a ridiculous season creating assists, and Nkunku getting 5 in one game, I think he would be out by himself as the assist maker. I think he's been amazing, and yeah, it's exciting to see him come on again. 2.7 key passes, 3.3 dribbles. He's been brilliant. He hasn't been great actually since the Bundesliga's resumed, but I'm sure it'll just take a bit of time to get back to that. But I think if going from the team of the season now, for me personally, it's Sancho.
Fair enough. I think that's a very good call. Right, so we've got Courtois, Andy Robertson, Alaba and Upamecano, Trent, Kimmich, De Bruyne and Brozovic, and then Lewandowski, Messi and Sancho. What an 11. I'm very proud of us. That was superb. Right, let's move on to big match preview. Our big match preview this weekend, we didn't actually have that much choice in the Bundesliga because Bayern are at home to Fortuna Düsseldorf, Dortmund are away at Paderborn, Gladbach play Union Berlin and Leipzig travel to Cologne on Monday. So instead we are profiling the matchup between Wolfsburg in 6th and Eintracht Frankfurt, who are now in 14th. Pat, Wolfsburg come into this in really good form.
They do, and I kind of thought going in, everything this season has suggested that this would be kind of defence versus attack, because Wolfsburg have one of the best defences in the league, and Eintracht just gonna outshoot you. Like they're coached by Adi Hutter, and they play like a sort of Red Bull side, or like his teams did in Switzerland, where they're just like absolutely ludicrous, like fast pace. And Wolfsburg are going to try and slow that down, but in their last match, they beat Bayer Leverkusen 4-1, which was a really impressive result given the form that Leverkusen have been in recently. And in fact, Wolfsburg are 6th. They've lost 1 of their last 9. It's only a 2-0 loss to Dortmund that's really blotted their copybook. And I think anybody could excuse them that right now, because Dortmund basically played Bayern even the other day. They massively outshot Leverkusen as well. They had like 14 shots to Leverkusen's 9. They had 9 on target to Leverkusen's 1. Do you know how hard it is to stop that Leverkusen attack creating quality chances? They do it against everybody. There are so many weapons they have, and they kept Moussa Diaby quiet, Bailey quiet, Havertz quiet, Bellarabi, Demirbay, so many weapons quiet at the same time. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to have your world set on fire by anybody in like the Wolfsburg lineup particularly, but they've got a bunch of guys who are solid performers. They've obviously got Wout Weghorst, who's got 11 goals and 3 assists this season. He's been very, very good. Max Arnold as well has got 11 goal involvements in I think 27 appearances, so very, very solid for him as well. I think that Wolfsburg are gonna probably top out this year at 6th where they are right now. I don't think they can have realistic hopes of finishing much higher than that, but they're a horrible team to play against, and they've shown recently that they're not just going to grind you down by muddying the game up. They're also capable of breaking you down at the back. So I think that Wolfsburg are an unpleasant team to face at the moment, and I'd be intrigued to see how this one goes.
Yeah, it'll certainly be fascinating, and full credit to Wolfsburg because they got rid of Bruno Labbadia, who's now coaching Hertha Berlin, at the end of last season, having finished 6th. Or maybe he left by his own accord, actually. Maybe I've got that wrong. But I think a 6th place finish, 2 years on from them finishing in the relegation playoff place, is a pretty good return. So well done to Wolfsburg. But Henry, the visitors, Eintracht Frankfurt, God, they could do with the win, because it has been a torrid time.
Yeah, I mean, this season's just been a bit of a disaster for Frankfurt, which is a shame, considering last year, they got to the UEFA Cup, what am I saying, the UEFA Cup, the Europa League semi-final. They lost on penalties at home to Chelsea, which is a real blow. Yeah, they've been pretty shocking. They were 9th on the 7th of February, having been unbeaten in 4 games, but since then they haven't even managed to win. They've played 6, drawn 1 and lost 5, only scoring 7 and conceding 21 times in that process. I mean, they're now down in 14th. And, since the league's resumed, I mean, that first game against Gladbach was just the first 10 minutes were an absolute horror show. They lost 3-1 there. Then they lost 5-2 away to Bayern. So that's not actually an easy opening 2 games. But then a 3-3 draw at home to Freiburg. It's really interesting, actually, since the Bundesliga resumed like that. There's big talk about whether the home advantage is actually completely gone. I think it's something, only 3 games have been won at home since this resumed, which is ridiculous, which shows that, they need all the help they can get, and they're not getting it right now. They were 3-1 down against Freiburg going into the 79th minute, and then they had to rely on 2 late goals to save them. What's interesting about their team is, so at the end of last season, they sold Haller. Sebastian Haller came to West Ham, and Jovic went to Real Madrid. And they brought in a number of players, actually. I think they brought in about 9 players to replace that system. and it just really hasn't clicked. I mean, how many times have we seen that where you sell a few big stars, you bring in loads, and it doesn't quite go? But even then, they've gone from 12.4 shots per game in 18-19 to 15.5 this season, which is actually the third best in the Bundesliga, which is, you know, the most ridiculously attacking league in the whole of Europe. They're still just they concede. They concede a lot, and I think that's their real issue. I mean, they're facing 13.4 shots per game. So, I mean, if Wolfsburg play a tactical game, I don't see if they're sensible in their approach. I think they'll be able to stifle Frankfurt. Who's, you know, I think Kostic has been, you know, one of their standout players. He was the one against Mönchengladbach that looked like he was really trying. And, you know, Bastos and Andre Silva, they only got 11 goals between them, which really isn't enough. It's not the return you need from your forwards. So yeah, I'm really not sure how Frankfurt are going to see their way through this one.
Yeah, it's worrying, really. And down in 14th, as you say, just 2 points clear of the relegation playoff place. Despite really not deserving to be in a relegation mix, I mean, I think expected goals ranks them as the 7th best team in Germany. Like, unless you're careful, and with, you know, players coming back to full fitness, the team not exactly clicking after a long break, they could be swept into a relegation battle. So, yeah, they definitely need points, and they need points fast. Guys, what's your prediction for this one? Pat, what are you saying?
I would like Eintracht to win, because I think they have been unlucky this season. But I'll go for a score draw. I think 2-2.
Nice. Ori?
2-1 to Wolfsburg.
Oh, not going for your boys, Frankfurt. I'm going to go with a 3-1 home win for Wolfsburg. With Maximilian Arnold scoring twice. Very niche predictions. Get your money on that immediately. Anyway, guys, that's all we've got time for on Continental Club for this week. I'm afraid there's no time for quickfire questions because that Team of the Year section took ages, and we gave you a lot of information in this show. So thank you very much for watching. Get your comments if what you made of our show and our comments in the comment section. And Pat, what should they go and do now?
They should check out the podcast. Why not? The podcast this last week had you on it, Dukes. The podcast next week has got Henry on it. So we made a team from the bottom half of the Premier League, which we were asked to do, obviously. But please send in your ideas for future episodes of the podcast because it's pretty thin on the ground right now, unless you just want to hear Bundesliga predictions every week.
Nice. Ori, anything from you?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. We've got a scout report coming out about Barcelona, so you can maybe read up on some of the things that you've heard today. But yeah, just keep supporting the channel.
Nice, lovely work, and get your, loads of your congratulations to Henry on a fantastic debut show in the comment section, and we'll see you next time. Bye.